Welcome back to the channel and today's video a full tour of the wonderful Basildon Park. A honey-coloured Georgian mansion standing proudly in the Berkshire countryside. Surrounded by 400 acres of rolling parkland, pleasure grounds and gardens. Basildon Park is a place with history layered through every room, tales of fortune, eccentric collections, near ruin and ultimately a remarkable rescue. Today we're going to explore the whole estate, inside and out. So get comfy, enjoy the views, and let's get going.
Basildon Park sits just outside Reading in southeast England. Though once you drive through the gates it feels a world away from the modern bustle. The house you see today is elegant and serene, but by the mid-20th century it was a shadow of its former self. Wartime damage and decades of neglect had left it in a terrible state, and many believed it was far too gone to save. Enter Lord and Lady Iliffe. They bought the house in 1952 and essentially adopted it, dedicating decades to restoring it with love, patience, and a very good eye for beautiful things. They bequeathed the entire estate to the National Trust in 1978, and thanks to their generous gift we are able to explore the house today. The house at Basildon Park dates from the 18th century, a textbook example of Palladian symmetry, elegance and proportion. Its west front has even been described as among the finest late Palladian façades in England. When you walk up the drive and catch the first glimpse of the house, it's easy to see why. It's breathtaking.
Unlike many country houses, the principal rooms at Basildon Park are on the first floor, reached by a short flight of steps inside the portico. At the top of the stairs, take a moment to appreciate the views from the balcony across the parkland, which is exactly what the cast of the 2005 film Pride and Prejudice did in a now famous photo taken on the balcony here. It's also worth looking up at the massive columns of soft Bath stone soaring up to the ornately decorated ceiling, and all of this before you've even set foot inside the house. Stepping inside, we're welcomed into the entrance hall, an elegant, light-filled room especially designed to set the tone. It's all about first impressions here: tall, exquisitely decorated ceilings, neoclassical decorative plasterwork and plenty of gilding. Everything is designed to impress but not overwhelm. When they set about restoring Basildon Park in the 1950s, Lord and Lady Iliffe sourced pieces from country house sales across the UK. The marble-topped side tables in this room were purchased from Ashburnham Place, and the damask curtains once hung at Blenheim Palace, birthplace of Sir Winston Churchill.
To the left of the entrance hall is the library, quietly refined with shelves of beautifully bound books and comfortable furniture, and yes, you are allowed to sit on the sofas. This room was a favourite of Lord Iliffe, and you can easily imagine him relaxing here with a book or a newspaper, away from the hubbub in the rest of the house. The warm colours and soft furnishings make it feel surprisingly cosy for such a grand home. And if you're admiring the wall colour, here's a fun detail. The final coat was not paint, but in fact dark beer, to achieve that mellow, aged look.
Head back across the entrance hall and you'll find the Sutherland Room, named after the Iliffes' close friend, British artist Graham Sutherland. After the bombing of Coventry Cathedral in 1940, Sutherland was commissioned to design a huge new tapestry, Christ in Glory, to hang behind the altar of the newly built cathedral. In this room you can see some of the sketches Sutherland made for the tapestry, remarkable considering the finished tapestry is 23 metres tall and weighs a ton. This room was the very first space the Iliffes lived in when they moved here, and at that time it was furnished with just 2 deck chairs. Well, everyone has to start somewhere.
Now for one of the stars of the house, the Great Staircase Hall. We do love a grand staircase, and the one here at Basildon Park certainly has the wow factor. The impressive sweeping cantilevered staircase appears to defy gravity as it rises up to the second floor. And the space provides the perfect connection between the main rooms. Light floods in from the 8 arched windows high on the top floor, and the incredible lantern, made in 1810, hangs proudly overhead. It's an astonishing piece of craftsmanship and gives you a real sense of how impressive Basildon Park must have felt in its Georgian prime. Stay tuned, we have some beautiful shots from the upper landing coming up later.
It was hard to tear ourselves away from the staircase hall, but we're glad we did, because the rooms here at Basildon Park just keep getting better and better. The dining room is next, wonderfully formal, and another room with stories to tell. The intricate plasterwork and mouldings are original to the house. However, in 1929 the chimney piece and paintings were sold, and you'll now find them in the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York, in the aptly named Basildon Room. If you needed an excuse for a trip to New York, we think that's the perfect one. When Lord and Lady Iliffe lived at Basildon Park, this room was used as a drawing room, but it was reinstated as the grand dining room you see today by the National Trust in the early 1990s.
Continuing through the ground floor, you arrive at one of the most distinctive and unusual spaces, the Octagon Room. 8 sides, beautiful symmetry and glorious views. Who could ask for more? Designed to showcase artwork, the walls are lined with red felt, a colour particularly popular in the 18th century as a background for displaying paintings. As with many of the items at Basildon Park, the Iliffes purchased several pieces in here from country house sales during their 1950s restoration, including silk curtains from Blenheim Palace and the stunning gilt tables and mirrors from Brockenhurst Park. The set of 8 mahogany chairs were designed for Eaton Hall in Cheshire, home of the Duke and Duchess of Westminster.
Moving on, and we are in the green drawing room, a smaller, more intimate and feminine space decorated in soft green tones with elegant furniture and the original white marble chimneypiece. The pink and green ceiling decoration is a rare example of 18th century paintwork, giving an authentic glimpse into the original decorative scheme for this room. The walls have cleverly been hung with green silk damask taken from Edwardian curtains. If you look closely, you can see the vertical stripes running down the fabric where sunlight has discoloured the folds.
So, it's time to make our way up that wonderful staircase we saw earlier to the second floor. There were 3 bedrooms open when we visited, and the first of those is the striking and bold crimson bedroom. It's not hard to see how it got its name. Rich red fabrics and deep tones, the room is dominated by the crimson state bed, purchased at the Ashburnham Place sale of 1953, along with the window curtains and matching suite of furniture. Everything is original, including the tasselled cushions, swags, rosettes and fringes, and cost the princely sum of £100, roughly equivalent to £3,500 today. The rug at the foot of the bed was handmade by Lady Iliffe, featuring birds and flowers from the estate garden.
Next is the bamboo bedroom, one of the guest suites furnished by the Iliffes. The bed came from Stoneleigh Abbey in Warwickshire. Sadly, a devastating fire at Stoneleigh forced the sale of a large number of pieces to fund the repairs. Bamboo-style furniture was fashionable in both the Georgian and Victorian eras, but because real bamboo was often too weak for larger furniture pieces, craftsmen cleverly painted pine or beech to simulate the bamboo stalks. The adjoining dressing room is where you can find the Coromandel screen. At nearly 3 metres tall and covering 6 panels, the Coromandel screen is an impressive and beautiful example of Chinese lacquerware.
One of the most charming, and perhaps strangest rooms in Basildon Park, is the Shell Room. Lord Iliffe's mother, Charlotte, was an avid collector of shells and fossils and gave her entire collection to her daughter-in-law, Lady Iliffe, who commissioned Gordon Davies to arrange them in the 18th century style, in cabinets and even on the walls of this room. The shell room is a wonderful example of the eccentricity often found in English country houses, and it is a fascinating piece of decorative history at Basildon Park.
Lady Iliffe's bedroom has beautiful views over the park and feels serene and personal. Soft fabrics, elegant furniture and little touches that remind you this was once a private family space. This room represents the final stage of the house's history before it was handed over to the National Trust, and allows visitors to step back to the mid-20th century and understand the personal style of the couple who saved Basildon Park. Next door is Lady Iliffe's bathroom. As part of their restoration, the Iliffes also modernised the house with central heating, bathrooms and a kitchen. At one point there was just one bathroom for the entire house, so they converted smaller bedrooms and even cupboards into ensuite spaces. Lady Iliffe's bathroom feels surprisingly contemporary, and the commodes have a fun backstory. They were bought from Liberty of London, where they'd been used in the ladies' cloakroom.
We promised some views of the upper landing here at Basildon Park, so please enjoy these shots from the top of that wonderful staircase for a few moments before we head downstairs once more. The final room on our tour of Basildon Park was originally a bedroom, but was converted into a fitted kitchen by Lord and Lady Iliffe in the 1950s. A spacious, functional room, it served well for the many parties and gatherings hosted by them.
Before we head outside, let's take a quick look at the film exhibition, a celebration of Basildon Park's starring roles on screen. From period dramas to big film productions, the house has appeared in Pride and Prejudice, Bridgerton, The Duchess and The Crown, to name but a few. Another quintessentially British drama filmed at Basildon Park was the feature-length 2013 Christmas special of Downton Abbey, where the house became the Crawley family's London residence.
That concludes the indoor tour, but that's not the end of the adventure, as there are still the gardens to explore. Take a stroll round to the back of the house and you will see some lovely views of the east façade, where the octagonal architecture becomes apparent as a striking 3-storey bay. The carved stone dogs standing guard were brought back from a trip to Italy in 1845. The area of lawn directly outside the east front was originally planted as a parterre with a balustrade terrace walk at the far end, offering wonderful views across the Thames Valley. After gifting the house to the National Trust in 1978, Lord and Lady Iliffe moved into the South Pavilion, where they created a small garden, which no doubt was a wonderful sanctuary for them in their later years. It fell into disrepair over time and was eventually cleared, fallowed and replanted in 2011, providing a rather delightful little space.
To the north of the house are the pleasure grounds. We found this area of the estate really charming. The National Trust has restored historic vistas across the parkland and reinstated gravel paths for better accessibility. Here you'll find a lovely mixture of both formal and informal planting, winding paths and beautiful tree specimens. A highlight in the pleasure grounds is the thatched umbrello, an unusual feature seat with a roof, which replaces a long since vanished 19th century original. It's a great spot to take in those incredible views across the Thames Valley and enjoy a moment of peace surrounded by seasonal bedding plants and flowering bulbs.
So there you have it. A full wander through Basildon Park, and we really do hope it's inspired you to visit for yourselves and probably fall a little bit in love just like we did. It's not hard to have a wonderful time here, but these tips will help make your visit even better. Bring a picnic if the weather's kind. There are picnic areas in the courtyard and close to the house, and both have wheelchair accessible benches. Try one of the waymarked walks. They range from a half-mile stroll to a 3-mile wander. Not all of them are suitable for pushchairs or wheelchairs though, so do check the National Trust website or app if accessibility is important for your group. Don't miss the thatched umbrella in the pleasure grounds, a wonderfully quirky garden structure. Take a moment to sit, breathe, and admire those sweeping views. It's also a great spot for a selfie. And finally, pop into the tea room on the ground floor of the house. The walls are covered with the most splendid murals painted by Michael Dillon, Lady Iliffe's nephew. Sadly, we only captured the tiniest glimpse on camera, so you'll just have to come and see the rest for yourselves.
If you're keen to make a day or a weekend of National Trust exploring, there are some brilliant places nearby. Nuffield Place, the surprisingly modest and incredibly personal home of multi-millionaire Lord Nuffield, founder of the Morris Motor Company. It's filled with his belongings just as he left them, offering a fascinating look at a man who changed motoring history. Gray's Court, a beautiful lived-in family home with stunning gardens, a charming tower and an incredible wisteria tunnel. The Vine, a Tudor powerhouse with a glorious chapel, impressive interiors and a history involving kings, queens and a rather dramatic survival story.
And that brings us to the end of our tour of Basildon Park. A house saved with love, restored with care, and shared so generously with all of us today. Here's why we think you should visit. Because Basildon Park tells a rare kind of story. Not just the distant grandeur of an 18th century mansion, but the very human tale of how Lord and Lady Iliffe rescued it from dereliction, room by room, piece by piece. They cleverly refurnished it using architectural remnants and interiors, salvaged from other country houses, giving Basildon Park a second life, filled with character and quiet elegance. And if you're a fan of period dramas, chances are you've already seen Basildon Park on screen. Walking through the rooms where those films and series were made adds a wonderful extra layer of magic, a sense of stepping into the story yourself. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed exploring Basildon Park with us, we'd really love you to like, comment and subscribe, and join us again for more National Trust adventures.